Hi, my name is Chris Derham. Welcome to another episode of Drinks from Eddie Muller's Noir Bar. Each week I take a chapter from the book Eddie Muller's Noir Bar, Cocktails Inspired by the World of Film Noir, and I talk about the film in that chapter and I make the drink associated with it. Today we are going to be looking at a film and drink of the same name, The Crimson Kimono. Now, The Crimson Kimono was directed by Samuel Fuller. So he wrote the screenplay, and I also believe he produced it as well, but I'm not quite sure on that one. Samuel Fuller is maybe a name you don't know, but he's a name you should know. He's really interesting life. I don't know if this is actually true, but I kind of think of him as like the first indie filmmaker. He was born in 1910. He had to go to work when he was 12 and was a copy boy at a newspaper when he was 12. By the time he was 17, he was working as a crime reporter in one of the New York newspapers. He kind of wrote, novels and pulp stories and kind of worked his way across the United States and ended up in Hollywood and started writing screenplays. When World War II broke out, he joined the army and was really basically kind of a grunt. I mean, I think he made it all the way to corporal by the time the war was over. But he fought in North Africa, he fought in Italy, he fought in Normandy, and his novel of the experience, The Big Red One, he later made into the film in the 1970s. The film you probably know the best of his is The Steel Helmet, which was kind of like his breakthrough film. Very hard-hitting war movie, and I'm not a big fan of war movies, but that's one that I don't know, I've never done the math on my top 10 war movies, but that one might just squeak into the top 10 war movies because it really says something, unlike a lot of war movies. Now, the Crimson Kimono, I actually put off doing this one because I was confusing this movie with another Japanese-related film noir, House of Bamboo, I think was the name of it. And still good, but not as good as this, and I didn't like it as well as this. So when I saw it, I went, oh, that's the one we're talking about. But actually, this one is a different movie, and I like it a lot better. Not to take anything away from House of Bamboo, but I do like this film a lot better. It stars, and these are names that you probably haven't heard of. I had to write them down because I knew I couldn't even remember them. Stars James Shigeta, Glenn Corbett, Victoria Shaw, and Anna Mack. Now, it's set in LA, Little Tokyo, where a murder of a stripper occurs in the first few minutes of the movie. James Shigeta and Glenn Corbett play a team of homicide detectives who are best friends, roommates, war buddies, and now partners on the homicide squad. They get a lead on who actually committed the murder, and they end up following that lead, and that takes them to Victoria Shaw, a very pretty young woman who is an artist who painted a picture that the dead stripper had in her dressing room. Actually, it was a Japanese-themed painting that she had made. They end up. First of all, Glenn Corbett meets the woman artist and falls really, really hard for her. James Shigeta is not around and ends up meeting up with her later, but they kind of hit it off. And the artist played by Victoria Shaw, she ends up falling hard for James Shigeta, which obviously causes all kinds of tension, both racial and just the tension of, a triangle between two best friends and a woman and unrequited love and that whole thing. I mean, it's handled very, very well with subtlety, and it really says something both about love and relationships, but also about race. So it's really pretty good and awesome. We've got a phone ringing. Well, I'll worry about that later. Oh, hey, my wife must have picked it up. So really first-rate film. I like it a lot. I really, if you haven't seen it, this is one that is worth seeking out. I found it on Tubi streaming to watch it again right before watching this. Really good movie. Now, before I move on, I do have to talk about one more thing, and that is the character that is played by Anna Mack. Now, Anna Mack is not necessarily like the other actors in this movie. Is probably not anybody you've ever heard of. You would know her. She played the next door neighbor, not the young girl, but the next door neighbor mom in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And she plays an artist as well, but she's older, probably mid-30s, and, kind of an alcoholic, but just a fun broad. And, there are times, a lot of times when I'm watching a movie where I really would like to see a movie about one of the small characters, and it's almost always a sign that the movie isn't working quite right. Well, in this case, the movie's working quite right, but I still want to see a movie that is Anna Mack's character in this. She is just a hoot, and you could team her up with Glenn Corbett, but to be honest with you, she deserves better than that. I would put her in a film with like Auntie Mame or something like that, and it would be the greatest film ever. Anyway, good film. Now, the drink, the Crimson Kimono, is a drink that was invented by Eddie Muller because he thought the film deserved a drink. In fact, I think he even said in the book that this was the first film-related drink he came up with there. He thought this film really needs a drink, and he made one. So we're going to take a small break. We're going to come back and make the Crimson Kimono. I hope you stick around for that. Thanks. And we are back. So this is a mixing glass drink. We're going to start by loading the mixing glass with some ice. Okay. And then we're going to start with some Japanese whiskey. Where is my thing? So it is 1 ounce of Japanese whiskey. So do 1 ounce of Japanese whiskey. Fortunately, I had this on hand because this would be a very expensive drink because I didn't have most of the ingredients, and I'm actually having to do a substitution anyway. It has 1 ounce of whiskey, and then 3/4 of an ounce of Bruto Americano, and this is the first time I'm cracking into this one. So 3/4 of an ounce of that. And 3/4 of an ounce of Domaine de Canton ginger liqueur, which is a nice little liqueur I like a lot. You can see I've already broken into this one. So I've got 3/4 of an ounce of that. And then it calls for 1/2 ounce of Campari. And unfortunately, I thought I had Campari, but I do not. So I'm going to substitute in Aperol. Hopefully that does not ruin things. I think they're actually a pretty decent substitute, at least according to Google, and Google knows everything. So there we go. So we've got 1/2 ounce of either Campari, or in my case, Aperol, which gives it a nice crimson color, although it probably is a little bit more orange tinted than probably was called for, although if I remember correct, Campari is pretty close in color to that one. So we're going to find my spoon and give it a good stir. And again, with stirring drinks, what you're trying to do mostly is take the ice, move it around the glass. Just push the ice around the glass and let the ice stir the drink. Okay, so we're going to call that good. Now, we're going to strain this into a old-fashioned glass with 1 large ice cube. And turn this around so I've got the little spigot on the right direction. And here we go. It is a pretty drink, that's for sure. And then for the garnish, Eddie said that you could either use a slice of fresh ginger or a slice of pickled ginger. Since we like sushi around here, we always have pickled ginger in the fridge. I got a nice kind of big piece of it, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of roll it up a little bit, sort of like I'm making a doobie out of it, and then put a toothpick through it and drop it in. And we have the Crimson Kimono. So let's see what we think. Wow. It's interesting. It's and it's one of those, a lot of times with bitter drinks, it's not a tremendously bitter, but I think you're probably getting mostly you're getting a lot of interesting flavors. I don't think you're getting anything mostly. You're getting a lot of flavors that you don't really associate. I can kind of tell there's ginger in there. I'm not quite sure what the Kochi Americano tastes, or Kochi Americano tastes like. But that's pretty darn good. So anyway, from the booth in the back of Eddie Muller's Noir Bar, coming from the Noir Bar in Little Tokyo, we're going to say cheers, or what do they say? Kumpai. I hope you join me next time. Thanks.